My guest today is the National CTO, Chief Technology Officer at Microsoft ANZ. That's Australia and New Zealand for the non-Australians and Kiwis out there. She's worked all around the world. Today, we'll go through her career journey, including the Australian Army, Telstra, and Microsoft. And make sure you stick around to the end where we can hear about Sarah's advice for others. So, Sarah Carney, welcome to the show, mate.
Thank you so much for having me.
Oh, thank you for being here after I harassed you non-stop.
I like the persistence, George.
Yes, very persistent. So the first thing I ask everyone on this is, let's go back to when you were in school, when you were a child, teenager, whatever. What's your first memory of what you wanted to be when you grew up?
I always wanted to be a lawyer, and it was really easy to work out why, because my dad was a lawyer. So it's that classic, we do the you can't be what you can't see. Well, I was like, my dad's a lawyer. Law sounds like a good idea. I want to be a lawyer. That was it, all the way through school.
Okay. And so did you have any inklings of sort of following through? I know in the early part of your career, you did a little bit of paralegal work and stuff like that. Was that sort of what got in there?
Yeah. So what actually happened was I genuinely, all the subjects I chose at school were lined up to get me the score I needed to do law. And it was in my second last year of college, maybe year 11, army recruiters actually came to the school and they were like, law's fine, but what about flying helicopters? And I was like, yes, I want to do that thing. Of course I want to join the army and fly helicopters. Now, I was so naive and I didn't appreciate that there's a whole lot of training before the helicoptering piece, but I signed up. I joined the army straight out of school. That was my thing. But unfortunately, and I did get the opportunity to learn to fly, but unfortunately shattered my ankle. And they gave me this choice, which was you can either stay in the army and do a desk job, or you can get out. And at the time, I had no idea. We're so young and naive when we have to make these really critical decisions. And I thought a desk job sounded like the worst thing in the world. So I opted to get out. And as you said, lawyering had been in the back of my mind all the time. And so I was like, well, I guess working in a law firm and going back to study law would be a really smart move, given that's what I always thought I was going to do. So that's how I ended up as a paralegal.
Okay. All right. So it wasn't, did you get an opportunity while you were in the army to study law at all? Or
no, it was a complete pivot. I studied fluvial geomorphology when I was in the army.
Okay.
Rocks and water.
Rocks and water.
The most useless degree in the whole entire world, unless you're a geologist, which I have never been. So there you go. But yes, so I didn't study law at all when I was in the army, but I did start studying it when I joined the law firm. And I realized that, as it turns out, I don't love law. It's not a thing I'm deeply passionate about, but I do love working for lawyers. And that actually created that sort of second phase of my career, which was I spent a decade working in law firms doing marketing and business development. So pivoted from paralegal work to marketing business development team. Who knew that was a thing? It's not exactly like you grow up going, when I grow up, I want to work for lawyers doing marketing.
No, it's not the first thing that pops in my mind when it comes to lawyers. Even lawyers I've worked at, I can't even think about a marketing team, but I suppose there is one, right? It's all the marketing that you see on TV, et cetera, to make the business. So that's cool. Well, so basically almost not by chance, but even following that desire, and I'm having a look at your profile on LinkedIn here, you basically worked in the legal industry for a while and actually found what you were passionate about by doing that, which is a really cool story. Did you, before you joined the army, it was actually going to be one of my questions, but you answered it brilliantly. Did you work as a teenager that gave you any skills that sort of helped develop some of these areas that you're in later?
I held so many random jobs as a kid, George, and none of them related to anything I did later. I worked in an aged care facility serving dinner to old people. I did a newspaper run, because let's face it, I'm really old, so I did all the old school jobs of newspaper runs and working at aged care homes. So none of them actually lined up to any of the things I did moving forward. And the same with work experience. I'm sure we all did work experience when we were kids. I picked the fun work experience. I went and did work experience in a vet surgery. I never wanted to be a vet, but I was like, playing with dogs all day, that'd be cool. So I just I think sometimes often I have this conversation with young people and I'm like, you just don't know at this age what it is you want to do when you grow up. And we're asking you to make these big decisions and it doesn't matter. Like we get so caught up around it, but it actually doesn't matter. So I'm like, go and have great experiences and then you can work out what it is you actually want to do. And I'm still trying to work that
Yeah.
out. So who knows?
Yeah, aren't we all right? I still don't know what I want to do when I grow up. So before we get a bit more into the business development and some of the other parts of your career, I always ask this of anyone who's been in any sort of military background. What do you think it is about being in the military, the Army, the Navy, the Air Force, that helps you at the other side of that have, and I see almost everyone I know at Microsoft and other areas who've been in the military have got this drive that you don't necessarily see in every other person. What is it that is being in the military that creates that drive in a person?
I think there is something that you have to want in order to choose service, and it is to be of service. And it sounds so naff, I think, but I still say it to people like, how may I be of service? And so that is why I joined the military. Like I say it flippantly because they came and told me I could fly helicopters, but actually I loved the mission that went with it. The fact that it was people who are focused on how can we make this place safer and better for everybody. And so when you exit the other side, I think people who are successful are people who can find that mission, the thing that drives them, that helps them keep moving forwards. And so that's why often those ex-military people will feel really driven and focused because they've found a mission and they're really good at aligning themselves and teams with that mission and driving towards that outcome. I don't want to say with a singular focus, that makes it sound bad, but it is. It's almost that ability to just singularly focus on getting the job done and understanding all the nuances and the things that could happen along the way that you might need to, plans A, B, C, and D that you may need to have in place to make that work.
Yeah, it sounds it's a similar answer to a few of the other people I've interviewed with from a military perspective. Makes a lot of sense, actually, especially when you work at a company like Microsoft where you really got to get to some sort of goal and you got to do it as a team. There's definitely no way you can be successful unless you're working as a team. So take me through, and you've worked in some pretty cool places. Like you've worked all around the world, the UAE, the United Kingdom, and that was obviously with a few of the legal work. And then you came back to Australia, worked for Telstra for a number of years. For those who are not from Australia, Telstra is a company that was originally telecommunications, but they're so much more now. And then you had an opportunity finally at Microsoft back in 2015. So take me a little bit through your career. What has been some of the highlights, lowlights, and how did you get some of those opportunities at some of these bigger companies?
So the move into business development was straight out of the army. I worked for an Australian law firm, and I had this opportunity to move to the UK. I think it's a classic rite of passage for all Australians, go and work over in Europe for a couple of years. My mum's British, so it was very easy for me to do that. So I moved to the UK for 2 years and ended up staying for 5, which I also think is a classic Australian thing to do.
Yeah.
Which is like, we go for a short period and we end up there. And I actually really fell into this career of marketing and business development in law firms. It genuinely wasn't something that I understood, and it started off with customer relationship management. So I actually started with tech systems and then it evolved from there and understanding what it is and actually how complex what law firms do behind the scenes and how they manage their clients and their customers and how they think about those relationships and durability of them and how they build new business. And I was just fascinated by that. And I was working in the UK, and one of the big law firms I'd worked for came and asked me if I'd like to move to the Middle East. And I couldn't think of a good reason not to. I know that's a terrible reason to do anything, but I was like, I can't think of why I wouldn't say yes to this. And so I said yes. And of course, I had this moment when I landed into Abu Dhabi for the first time, and I thought, what am I doing? I know no one. I'm driving along looking out the sides of the taxi and it's just desert and palm trees. I'm like, what have I done? What did I say yes to? But it actually really played nicely for me in that I say this to people a lot, which is say yes to everything for a period of time when you start a new job, because then you work out what's important or what's not important. And I feel it's the same when you move anywhere new, which is I said yes to every invitation so I could meet lots of people, I could experience the space before I then started being more selective about what I might do with my time. It was amazing. I mean, the Middle East was incredible. I used to drive to Dubai every week and new buildings would have appeared in the space of a week. And I know that sounds insane, but they were building them at like 6 floors at a time. So I would genuinely be driving along and be like, that wasn't there last week. And it's just it was a really inspiring time to be living there when it felt like anything was possible. But my family did that classic thing they always do, where they lie to you, they tell you everything's fine, and it's not. And so it turned out my mum was
Mm.
quite sick, and everyone had been faking it for me. So every time I came home for a visit, everyone made it look like it was okay. And so I thought, you know what, it's time to come home. And that played really nicely into my love of trying new things. So things that I already know how to do, but in a whole new space. And so I'd done marketing and business development in law firms. And so Telstra had an opening for a really similar role. And I thought, great, never worked in telecommunications. I have no idea how to do this thing, but I know how to do marketing and business development. And so that's what I did.
Mm.
I started at Telstra doing bid management, helping them write big tender responses for large government contracts. And then I used that exact same thing when I joined Microsoft, which is
Mm.
I had an almost identical role. We call it pursuit lead. I think these days we change the
Yeah.
name of it all the time, but you get the idea. Same concept. And so I joined doing that at Microsoft, and I found that's a really nice way of pivoting because that's three really different industries over a period of 10 years that I traversed, but doing effectively the same job but in a completely new industry. Once having started there, so I did this at Telstra, I started doing bid management, but then I found they had an application development team. And I laugh about this now because at the time we could see this need for a customer relationship management tool that would help salespeople manage their opportunities end to end. Now I'm saying that to you and you're like, there are a million tools that do that. Sure, there are now. But at the time there weren't. So we basically started building Salesforce or Dynamics,
Mm.
but custom built for Telstra. It was quite funny. I
Oh,
laugh
great.
about it now. It's that classic thing where large organizations are like, we should build what we need. And I'm like, oh, buy off the shelf. Anyway, the beauty of having worked in tech now for 10 years, I'm like, why do we always custom build things? Buy it off the shelf. It already exists. But yeah,
Mm.
so that's how I ended up doing those moves across those industries, pick a role that I know how to do, and then pivot
Yeah.
to the thing that really excites me when I get there.
Nice. So one of the things I ask everybody, and this may be what would have driven a lot of your career, especially throughout a lot of the journey that you've had within Microsoft. You've had quite a few roles within Microsoft. So I personally have values that I follow through in my career. I have to have passion for what I want to do. I need a purpose for what I'm doing. Otherwise, what am I doing here? What's the point? And I love helping others. I get a real not value out of, but a joy out of seeing other people grow and mentoring them. It's part of why I'm doing this, because I hope others watch this and say, I want to be like Sarah, and they'll follow in your footsteps. But what are some of the values that you feel like you have grown with throughout your career, if any?
I love that you have that clarity. I wish I did, because I don't think I had the words to put around that clarity you have around what you value and what's important to you in doing these things. Like that was never a thing that was talked about in the first 2 decades. Oh my God, I'm so old. The first 2 decades of my career it wasn't a thing that was talked about. And it wasn't. It's really interesting that you have that beautiful way of framing it. I now have clarity around what I want out of a role and where I will
Hmm.
excel and shine. And I don't know that it's values necessarily, although I could probably work out what they are. But I touched on it before. Like I love to be of service. And so I think that's your purpose piece in your set of values. Like there must be a
Hmm.
purpose to this and a greater purpose, not just I'd like to make money. We all have jobs for a reason, but the purpose of how do I be of service? How can I help either the organization I work for, or in the role I sit in now, I have this wonderful opportunity, which is Microsoft does a lot that is actually in service of the nation, not in service of Microsoft. So we do a lot of philanthropic work, we do a lot of work in the educational space, and I love those things. So it plays really strongly to my need for purpose. So I think I'll probably have to sit with it and think about more of my values-based choices, George. I think a lot of the time I pick things because I often think, what's the worst that could happen? It's maybe not the best career choice decision making process, but yeah, I like the focus that you've got on those values and how you make sure that those roles serve you in doing that.
I like the fact that you go, oh, what could go wrong? I like that. I like that thought process. It's a good way to take an adventure, right? That's what I tell my kids as well. Just it's all part of the experience. That's what you want. You want to have experiences in life. So give me what's been your highlight of your career and maybe your low light of your career, if you've got any.
That's really hard because I've loved every piece of it. It all contributes to where I am now. Like I love the role I'm sitting in right now. I am so privileged in this job. I get to sit in rooms with extraordinary people and participate in the most amazing things. So this job I sit in right now is absolutely incredible, but I probably would have said the same thing about my previous job and the ones before. Like, it's a, how do you pick a highlight when, to me, every moment you're living in is contributing in some way, shape, or form to who you are. But if we come back to that question you asked about values, one of the things, there is a role I had at Microsoft that probably wasn't the best choice I've made. So as you said, this is my 5th job at Microsoft. I'm losing track. But one of the roles I picked was really internally focused. It wasn't an externally focused customer facing role. It was an internal focused role. I had a team who did all the amazing externally focused work, but what I had to do was all in spreadsheets and dashboards and reporting and pipeline management. And that, it's not a low light, but it taught me a lot about myself, in that that doesn't set me alight, that doesn't excite me. It's not where I am my absolute best. So that's probably the thing I've learned in that, is that there are certain roles that I've done where I can't shine, or I can't bring all of myself to work, and that would be the piece that I've learned from. And now I'm making really conscious decisions about what comes next, knowing that I have to have customers. I love the big hard problems. I love spending time talking about things and engaging in really complex diatribes and conversations and insights and thought leadership. So I want the hard things, externally facing hard things.
You're making me miss my old role, which was customer facing now.
See, you got
making me
it.
question my boss is gonna see this and go, "What's George gonna do now?" Yeah, I actually, that really resonates with me. Hearing you say that, like, some of the best moments of my career were, I did a lot of teaching, a lot of presenting to big crowds, and just when people come up to you afterwards and they really got something out of that. Yeah, our customers, you get to see so many different organizations and so many different people and what their needs are. When you can help them, it's a great feeling. So I feel that really resonates with me, mate. So give me if you go back to young Sarah, what advice would you give yourself if you were starting your career today, and to others listening?
So I'm like, I wouldn't want to change anything, because again, like, genuinely, I feel like all the things you think you get wrong actually help you where you are. Like, they're all experiences that add up. But I realize this can be a really weird thing to say. I am so glad I did a science degree. And I know I said it was fluvial geomorphology and everyone looks at me like I'm crazy. I'm so glad I did a science degree. And the only reason is that it opens so many opportunities and so many doors. And I never appreciated how many times I would be asked about my degree after doing it. It's like the weirdest thing. People love to ask, like, what were the topics in your degree? And so I'm really glad I did the heavy lift and did chemistry and maths and all the things that I hated, did not love the subject, but it meant that there was no door closed to me. And let's be honest, I haven't used that degree for a really long time, but it has, like, that scientific thinking, the methodology, the approach, the very logical things that you do in that have really paid off. So I say that often we focus ourselves down. I'm like, you know what, I'm really grateful for the fact that I did a really broad, open degree that could be then used for any number of different pathways. And so I'm glad young Sarah made that choice. I don't know if she did it really deliberately or consciously. She kind of fell into it, but that's the thing I would say, like, actually do that, make that choice, because it's really good.
That's good advice, mate. That's good advice. It's astonishing how many people I know who are not doing what they studied either at university or they thought they were going to do out of that. So, and they've done just fine. So,
well,
cool.
Sorry, George, and I think it's worth noting as well, because often we get focused on degree, and I've just done it myself. I'm talking about it. Like, the majority of people I've worked with, and in fact, the most successful people I've worked with in IT, didn't come to it with a degree. And I think that's the other piece of it, is we overthink the need for these qualifications. There's so much pressure put on them, but actually the reality is there's a change and a shift, and tech moves so fast that a 3-year degree is out of date the minute you finish the first 6 months of it, right? So it's learning how to think. So whatever you do, learn how to think. That's fine, whether it's a short course, a micro-credential, a TAFE course, a certification, whatever it is. Learning how to learn will be the skill you need moving forward, not the actual piece of paper that you go and get.
Yeah, that's really good advice, mate. And yeah, I know at least 4 or 5 people I work with at Microsoft, and where I used to work at Australia Post, I worked there before Microsoft years ago. And a lot of people just came from the mailroom, got an opportunity and just got straight into it, learned, and were brilliant. Some of the most amazing, talented people I've ever met in my life. One of my best mates did a diploma of IT, and he's way smarter, way clearer than I am, and extremely successful at Microsoft. So it just goes to show you. Yeah, I agree with you. Don't do a degree just because someone else wants you to do it.
Yeah.
Take whatever opportunities come your way. Great advice, mate. Okay, Sarah, well, thank you very much for appearing on the Synthesis show today. Really appreciate you taking your time.
A pleasure. Thanks for having me along. Great chat.
Thanks, mate. And for everyone else, we'll see you at the next one. Bye. Thank you for watching this episode of Synthesis. If you would like to see more videos, please like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell. Or follow if you are listening on a podcast platform to support the channel and join our community.